Hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we will be talking about a show that got cancelled for strange reasons. While shows that get cancelled usually do so for reasons like poor ratings or corporate disputes, Gargoyles got cancelled after a complicated chain of unexpected circumstances. The last season took such a pivot that many fans no longer enjoyed it. And what happens when that happens? Cancellation. The last season felt like a different version altogether, a rebranded Season 3. The story that fans actually loved and looked forward to quietly ended in the spring of 1996, with a season finale built to feel like an ending. And what continued was the same set of characters but under a different title and a different direction altogether, a change that the fans could not accept. 30 years later, the creator still calls the last season painful, and the fans agree with it as well. So what exactly happened with the show, and why are the fans and the creator for one of the first times possibly on the same page regarding the quality of a show this popular? Let's find out. The show that broke the rules. The show premiered on October 24, 1994 on a first-run syndicated block within Disney's afternoon programming, the same type of distribution that produced this period's throwaway, standalone action cartoons. Writer-creator Greg Weisman and story editor Michael Reeves were deliberately aiming to do something totally different with that block by creating continuing story arcs to which events and consequences could and did persist, featuring villains who had identifiable motivations beyond simply being cartoons, and a mythology spun from Shakespeare and Scottish lore. The premise, a clan of gargoyles who turn to stone by day, is magically reawakened 1,000 years after most of its members were massacred during the Middle Ages. They awaken in 1990s Manhattan after billionaire tech mogul David Xanatos moves their castle. The voice acting alone garnered attention. The cast included several Star Trek alums, Jonathan Frakes as Xanatos, Marina Sirtis as the villainous Demona, and Brent Spiner as Puck the Trickster. Alongside them were Sally Richards on as police detective Elisa Maza, a lead character whose biracial identity and history were given more weight than the role of a mere damsel in distress, calling for the Gargoyles' aid, and Keith David as Goliath, the Gargoyles' leader. The first season's 13 episodes did exceptionally well, to the point that Disney's then chairman, Michael Eisner, came up with a bigger plan and slid the idea to Weisman, asking him if Gargoyles was ready to become the foundation of a Disney action universe. Because why just let DC Comics and Marvel have all the fun, right? And so the spin-offs and pilots started getting drafted on that central idea, like the episodes Pendragon and The New Olympians. For a good minute there, the show did not look like just some cartoon that was competing against the Power Rangers, but like a show that was harboring much bigger potential to become a stepping stone to an entire section of Disney action programming, which is why it felt more devastating seeing the collapse that followed. Season 2, O.J. Simpson and the Power Rangers Problem. Buena Vista, Disney's distribution firm, had agreed to take on another season with 13 episodes even before the first season aired. But when the show took off upon release, subsequently increasing toy sales as well, the firm asked the production team to instead come up with 52 episodes, so they could run the episodes 5 times a week. Weisman pointed this out as being unrealistic, but his concerns were not heard. In that meeting, I said, "That's not possible. We did 13 episodes in 10 months. We can't do 52 in 10 months. And they were unhappy. So then Weisman had no choice but to literally quadruple his staff. In doing so, they also expanded their storyline and setting. From being fixed just to Manhattan, they spread out globally, adding gargoyles in several different countries and making the mid-season part practically a world tour arc of this group of gargoyles meeting others around the world. Thanks to Weisman for being so vocal about the show and all the behind-the-scenes details, we now also know the reasons for the show's fall. Believe it or not, one of the reasons why viewership started going down was the infamous trial of O.J. Simpson. To explain in his own words, the O.J. Simpson trial meant we were constantly being preempted for trial coverage, because we were on syndicated stations, and syndicated stations still primarily lived off local news in the 1990s. Every day it ran, we were being preempted, and in any given city, people were missing episodes of Gargoyles and falling out of habit of watching it. Well, that sums up one of the major cracks responsible for the show losing popularity, and for reasons beyond their control, too. The other reason was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers blowing up like crazy at the same time. During Season 1, Gargoyles was consistently at the top in the afternoon slot, while in Season 2, Power Rangers started gaining popularity and propelled its way to the top, demoting Gargoyles. This led to toy sales dropping as well, which ultimately then led to little thought of doing a third season in syndication. So what does this mean? That Season 2 definitely wasn't a flop by any means, because look at it. At one point their toys were leading the boys category as well. What happened instead was a fall in the momentum that it had gained. The confidence behind making a third season was waning, and the conditions behind the scenes just seemed to get worse. The company already had issues going on after the president's death in a helicopter crash in 1994, which had ultimately started some internal conflicts. That is around the same time when studio chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg left the company to found DreamWorks. Soon afterwards, Weissman's other bosses also trailed after Katzenberg, leaving Disney. And along with them, the creative ambitions for a new season also left Greg Weissman. Hunter's Moon, the real finale. Hunter's Moon is the 3-part season finale that aired from May 13th to 15th, 1996, and concludes Season 2 with a subtle reference to the show's 5-part pilot by retrieving similar visual and thematic motifs from where they began. A narrative structure that reads as a capstone for the series even when the creatives were unsure that that was what it actually was. It resolves the Canmore family arc, escalates Demona's war against humanity to its most dangerous level yet, and then cuts to black as the Manhattan Clan's secret existence is made public knowledge. Structurally, the entire 3-part episode is everything that the Goliath Chronicles could not replicate. Earned stakes, consequences that lingered, and a genuine sense of closure worked perfectly, alongside sufficient open-endedness to clearly imply that the story goes on off-screen. Every important relationship established over 2 seasons gets put through the ringer, and no bit of it feels forced or added as an afterthought. This is why so many fans value this particular season finale, which is precisely why it is Hunter's Moon among the fanbase and Weissman himself, not anything that came after, that most Gargoyles fanatics see as the real finale to Gargoyles. Take that irony in for a second. The creatives of the show actually intended and put together an end to their season story, which, with the resolutions and some open endings, felt like a series ending, and hoped to continue into Season 3 similarly. But then the network decided they were going to order an additional batch of episodes on terms that the individuals who worked on Hunter's Moon could not dictate. Look at what Weissman had to say about this season. I've seen that episode a few times, but the other 12 episodes I've seen exactly once, because they're honestly painful for me. The characters behave out of character. Among the hardcore fandom, we just don't consider that canon. I tried to guide them, but they didn't really listen too much. It's almost like fan fiction. How the move to ABC changed Gargoyles. When Disney purchased Capital Cities ABC in 1996, ABC's Saturday morning schedule suddenly needed a boys' action show to fill it, and Gargoyles was sitting right there in Disney's library. So they obviously chose that easy way. However, a broadcast network operates under a vastly different set of standards and practices regulations than syndication. As Weissman mentioned, the original staff had some substantial freedom for the first 2 years of the show's creation when it was syndicated, whereas for the next season, it was a network and had much tougher standards and practices rules. Along with this, Disney offered Weissman what he considered a demotion from producer to story editor. He agreed to do 1 episode while they worked out the details, but ultimately passed because of concerns over creative control, resources, and the schedule. In addition to that, supervising producer of the show, Frank Parr, had also left to work for DreamWorks, and the production of Gargoyles was moved to Nelvana Studio. Weissman officially served as a consultant and then ultimately waived his contractual credit. He's been rather clear on what the day-to-day role of that consultancy was. Part of what the problem was that the staff of Chronicles took springboards I came up with and then went way south with them. So essentially, whatever ideas he was coming up with were taken but stretched extremely thin. The final result of the shift came to be known as Gargoyles, the Goliath Chronicles, aired from September 7th, 1996 to February 15th, 1997, and had new standards that dictated the direction of the program, while nearly nobody from the first 2 seasons who had made the show what it was remained. The Goliath Chronicles, what actually aired. The Goliath Chronicles picked up immediately after the exposure of the Gargoyles established in the conclusion of Hunter's Moon. Weissman wrote the premiere episode, The Journey, which is the only episode of Season 3 that he considers canon, but he was out of the show before the season finished airing. He later said that someone re-edited his first installment after he was gone. I wrote the first episode, but did not produce it. Someone even re-edited my script after I was gone. The other 12 episodes written without him or Parr are the ones to which fans commonly refer regarding the breakdown of the show's tone. Villains made into more sitcom types rather than truly evil antagonists, relationships dealt with in a matter of weeks rather than seasons, the morally gray aspects of the characters, everything that the first 2 installments had reduced to a standard Saturday morning cartoon of good versus bad. As Weisman once again said, they're very disappointing. So yeah, I have always wished they didn't exist, which is a horrible thing to say about someone else's work, but it just doesn't feel like Gargoyles to me. It feels like another show where our characters were plastered in. However, despite having such strong negative feelings about the 3rd season, he does have immense respect and sympathy for the people behind it. He acknowledged their tight schedule and time crunch and did not disqualify their otherwise great levels of talent. Why fans never forgave it. Now we come to the saddening but expected reality. The end product that the new studio came up with for Season 3 was so off course that it was never forgiven by the fans. As Weisman put it, the episodes were honestly painful for me. The poor ratings then, of course, led to a cancellation after the 13-episode run, and it was never picked up again for a continuation. To clear out any possible misunderstandings, the true pain did not come from the cancellation of the show. Instead, it came from the betrayal the fandom felt after spending 2 whole seasons with a story that had real consequences with permanency in them, and suddenly being switched to a storyline that no longer held that sort of gravity or groundwork to it. And then what? The same fans simply had to accept such a jarring change? Impossible. The reaction to such an unwanted change was simple and blatant rejection by the fans. Gargoyles fan sites and guides routinely consider only the Journey canon, or only semi-canon, with the other 12 episodes outright dismissed by a good chunk of fans, and have always done so, Weisman included. So when the whole series was made available on Disney Plus later, Weisman wished they had never included the Goliath Chronicles as well. If I had my way completely selfishly, they wouldn't have put Goliath Chronicles, what's considered Season 3, on Disney Plus. I mean, the skepticism's valid, because of course the new viewers who have just come across this series will watch this in one sitting, thinking it's all a continuation, unaware of the fact that Season 3 was made by a different creative team. So, this is one of the rare cases where the creator and the fan base, both to a good degree, agree on which seasons actually count. Something that just makes the resentment about this whole ordeal more sensible, and also the reason why these feelings do not particularly fade out of the fandom, still staying the same even after 30 years. The comics that actually continued the story. Fast forward 10 years from Season 2, it is 2006, and Weisman just got a second chance at continuing the dormant series. That year, Slave Labor Graphics began producing new Gargoyles comics written by Greg Weisman himself, which he continued from where the finale of the 2nd season left them, that is, Hunter's Moon, completely ignoring Season 3 and writing the story he genuinely wanted. Additionally, the first 2 issues were the story that Season 3's The Journey talked about, basing the comics on his original unaltered version. Fans and Weisman referred to this 12-issue run, Clan Building, plus a 6-issue spin-off, Bad Guys, as the show's true Season 3. The license ended in 2008 when Disney raised its licensing fees beyond what the small publisher could sustain, with the remaining issues later collected in 2009. Then, after another over a decade-long pause, a new comic was released under Dynamite Entertainment in December 2022, once again written by Weisman himself. This time, the series was labeled as Season 4, here in Manhattan, which picked up from where the last issue of SLG had stopped, establishing it as a canon continuation. In July 2023, a spin-off was also released, titled Gargoyles Dark Ages. Then again, in October 2023, the comics got the green signal for further continuation, where the focus was now on Demona and her hunt for ancient artifacts, named Quest, which ultimately came out in April 2024. So while the fans have been waiting for any updates on on-screen revivals, the story has been quietly moving forward. It kept progressing in print for years, with fresh material coming out as recently as 2026. The reboot question. What's confirmed in 2026? Well, that is right. There are talks of a reboot happening. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Gary Dauberman is set to team up with popular horror filmmaker James Wan's production company, Atomic Monster, to produce a live-action version of the Gargoyles series on Disney+. Best known for his horror works like Annabelle and The Nun, Dauberman would be the producer, writer, as well as the showrunner of this live-action piece. And according to the entertainment media outlet Collider, Dauberman spoke about how he would not stray from the animation much, More specifically, this is what he said. "I feel like we have the animated series already. It's so good. That's what we fell in love with. I think it lends itself to a really cool live-action version. We are still keeping that darkness to it. The reported premise keeps Goliath's core mythology intact, that is, freed from a centuries-long stone curse, protecting modern-day New York alongside detective Elisa Mazza. As of a 2025 update, Dauberman noted that adapting such a popular cartoon series to live action would be tricky, but he would still try his best to stick to the original and not reinvent the wheel with it. A January 2026 report said the live-action reboot was still in development. Even as of today, no cast or release window is confirmed yet. Another update, although not confirmed yet, has been floating around entertainment media outlets as of August of this year. In their podcast Dropping Names with Brent and Johnny, Gargoyles voice actors Brent Spiner and Jonathan Frakes briefly mentioned the show. More specifically, Brent revealed that he had been told that morning that Gargoyles was getting another animated series. However, Disney has released no statements in confirmation of this, and so we will just label it as a potential rumor for now. Well, that is all the information I have on the recent updates for now. And so now I shall wrap up this video. So even though Gargoyles technically does have a final season and a finale in the animated version, many fans outright reject it. And as discussed in this video, rightfully so I believe. From external blocks such as the O.J. Simpson trial and Power Rangers blowing up, to production houses changing and changes in the staff as well, Gargoyles really went through a lot. And despite all that, it makes me happy to see how the storyline is still getting continued in the comics, and now a live action could be on its way. So what do you guys think about the live action? Do you think it will live up to the high expectations the fans have? Let me know down in the comments, but do not forget to like and share this video. And to see more such content, please hit the subscribe button. That is all for today, folks. See you next time.